I'm Chicka Eloy, and this is a conversation designed for BCD people with BCD people. On this show, we're running through the diverse cultures of talent at BCD Travel, and we're showcasing our most confident self-colleagues. So come on, let's go have some fun as we explore the different functions, spaces, faces, and the complexities across our world of BCD. Well, it's been a couple of weeks between drinks, ladies and gentlemen, and that's been on purpose because we've been waiting, we've been packing the cannon for a brand new announcement coming this week on A World of BCD. I would love to welcome to the podcast a good friend, a good colleague of mine, Miss Jenn Wood, a Wonder Woman, a superstar of marketing potential here at BCD. Welcome to the podcast, Jenn.
Thank you, Chicka. It's an honor to be here and so excited to celebrate with you and the big announcement that we're going to be doing. So thank you very much for having me be your guest.
Whoop, whoop. Now, Jenn, maybe you can tell us all about you and your 2-minute story at BCD. Go.
I am the Director of Strategic Communications, which is a bit nebulous sounding. What it basically comes down to is I run the team that's responsible for internal industry and commercial comms within BCD Travel. For the listeners today, you see a lot of our handiwork in the emails that come out from executives. We run Inner Circle. We also run Focus Magazine. So anything internal, my team has something to do with it. I've been with BCD, it'll be 5 years, November 3rd. I've been in my current role since January 1st of 2019. Before that, I ran Asia Pacific as the regional marketing director based out of Singapore for 4 years, which was a super fun job and challenging and interesting. And now I've taken this new role with the internal industry and commercial team.
And in your new role, you're back in the Americas, is that correct?
I am back in the Americas. I am calling you from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Coeur d'Alene, and I will give $50 to any listener that right now could name exactly where that is. 3, 2, I'm kidding. Where are you, Jenn? Where are you close to?
Idaho would be in the Pacific Northwest, so we're right next to Washington State, and Coeur d'Alene is right at the very tip because Idaho's a very tiny little part in the top. So I'm actually closer to Spokane than I am to Boise, Spokane, Washington. So that's where I get to fly out of on a regular basis. So it's good to be back in the U.S. Been a great experience. But my team is global. 2 in Europe, 2 on the East Coast of the United States. So we are a small team, but we do a lot of different things, and it's a heck of an adventure.
Jenn, why don't you tell us and the listeners what is, as a comm director, what is the most gratifying and the most challenging part of your role?
Oh man, the most gratifying part is when the word strategic in the title, strategic comms, I take that very seriously. I mean, I pride myself in being an advisor to the executive team to be able to give counsel and to provide input as communications are coming together. So it's really gratifying when you actually see something from start to finish, when something comes to you and it's a bit nebulous and you're able to kind of ask those thought-provoking questions. You know, a lot of communications is asking why. Well, why are we doing that? Why does that matter? Why should we go this route? It's very gratifying to play that strategic advisor role. I know that my team does it for a lot of different people, and there's a lot of different people within BCD Travels that does the role, and I'd argue they'd probably feel the same way.
And Jenn, we've traveled the world on this podcast talking to several different units, several different functions. You and your role, you pretty much touch the entire gamut, right? You go across every single running lane that we have, as well as every single function and probably every single executive as well too, right?
We do. We really do. We are truly global in nature. And that was part of why I wanted this role, actually, was I like to play with all the train parts, as they say. You know, there's a lot of different aspects that come with communication, and we get to touch on a lot of different things, whether it's from the CSS world with Leslie West with that type of messaging, all the way through to presentation support. You know, we do a little bit of everything, and I do love that. I joke I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
And when we go back to the very first episode of our podcast series, A World of BCD, we actually interviewed your colleague, Michael Antrobus, who's part of the public relations side of the marketing team. You, as a direct report, who do you feed up to, Jenn?
I feed up to Kelly Flynn, who is the vice president for strategic communications, and she reports into Thad Slatton. So it is nice to have the kickoff at number one, and for what we're doing here today. So we're kind of bookending it, which makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense to start with public relations and end with internal comms.
And I love it too. So why don't we jump straight in, Jen? And for our listeners right now, again, if you do not have the time to listen to the rest, you want to get this in one chunk. So press pause and come back in just a second. And as you put on different hats, I really need us as listeners to think right now, yes, you're an employee at BCD Travel. Yes, you work on a really important team in a really important role. But for the remainder of this episode, we would love for you to wear the hat as an individual contributor and just as a human, as an employee working for a really cool company called BCD. And that's the filter that we're going to be taking on today. So Jen, I have a question for you. Have you ever been on Amazon before? In the last 12 hours, 2 hours?
Way too many times.
Minutes?
Amazon and Prime. Yep.
Great.
Very much.
So you have a look at the 5 stars that you have on Amazon. And if I was to ask you right now to rate, let's pretend we'll say your performance, okay, over the last 2 weeks at work. 1 to 5, 5 being great, 1 being poor. Where would you put yourself on a rating 1 to 5?
I'm going to go with a solid 4.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What about your passion for your work between 1 and 5?
I'm going to go with it's a 5 right now, especially given what we're on this call to do. So yeah, no, it's definitely a 5.
What are you working on big right now? Does it start with my and end with source? I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
Yes.
Okay, so come back to the scale for a second, and listeners play along too. So you said 4 out of 5 for the performance at work right now. If I was to ask your manager, Kelly, whom you mentioned before, 4 out of 5, would she probably agree that you're at a 4?
She'd probably be more generous than I am with myself.
Okay.
She'd probably give me a 4.5.
And hopefully she'd do that for the passion too. And if we came back into the house and home with your husband and your family, would they say that you have been performing at a 4?
Oh dear.
Because they're the ones that hear you complain, I guess. They're the ones that hear you
vent on that one? Do I have to score myself?
You can. You live in a country that allows you to do such a thing. So, hey, thanks for playing along there. And listeners, the same for you, because that's, again, the filter that we're using here. It's almost a 360 view from your manager to you, from your passion to your performance to the people around you. You know, we want us to look into the next time that we have together, really thinking about, is this really how it works for me? And so in saying so, Jen, I know that you and I have spoken offline about this, and some of the listeners may know this because they've had interaction with HR over the last 6 months. But we have been doing a lot of work with our under 30 workforce. Jen, why would we be looking at the under 30 workforce in terms of data? Why is that important? BCD?
Oh, well, that's important because that's the future leaders of the company, and we need to make sure that they are happy and that we're giving them what they need.
I love that. And at the same time, not changing who we are for what they need, but that was the exact reason why we did that from an HR and talent perspective, Jen. And what we did was we found out that we are doing an actually pretty good job, actually very decent job at bringing people under 30 in through the doors across all regions at all levels at BCD. But when we dug deeper into the research, what we found was after 12 to 18 months, people were starting to bleed at that level and at that age group. And so we wanted to ask the question, why? And so at the very, very beginning of this year, I led a whole HR team and kind of survey, I guess, around why are you guys leaving at that stage during that time of year, that time in your career. And the answer came back and it was very, very clear. Choose swimming or running at the Olympics. Which is your favorite sport?
Running.
Okay, great. So imagine right now it's a 100-meter dash. And everybody's lined up at the starting line, and these are our under 30 BCD colleagues, right? And then we say, ready, set, go, and everyone's off and racing. And as they're running, this is their onboarding, their 30, their 60, their 90 days. Their feedback was, hey, guys, BCD does an awesome job at teaching people in their lane how to get up and get moving really, really fast. Okay, sure, there's a bit of feedback, there's a bit of work, not everything's pulled together, and hopefully every year we get better at what we do there as a company, but you guys do a great job at putting me in my lane and getting me up to speed and running fast. But what this group is missing is they're saying my lane, which is lane number 2, connects to lane number 3, which connects to lane number 4, 5, 6, and 7. I, in lane number 2, don't understand what lanes 5, 8, and 9 do. And we went, oh, so we're doing a really great job teaching you about your role, but we're not doing a very good job at all teaching you about the culture and teaching you about the company. And so that is the big missing gap that we're leaning into now and thinking, hey, if you're under 30, we know that we may be teaching you, like you said, how to sprint out of the Olympics, when really we know that this whole game at BCD Travel, this whole life at BCD Travel is more of a tough mudder race, right? Or an obstacle course where you're running into each other, getting sweaty and muddy and bleeding and, hopefully not bleeding, but everybody's crossing all the different lanes. Making sense, Jen?
Absolutely. Having done a Tough Mudder, exactly right. Okay, Chicka. So, we talked about it being a tough mudder and that we need to get people to be able to swerve and cross those lanes and to get over all those obstacles. What are we doing to get them there?
Well, of course, we're going to do what Amazon and Google and Facebook all do. We're going to give people free breakfasts and their experience is going to be better and therefore they're more engaged at work, right?
Yeah.
I kid. I kid. So I think, Jen, what it comes down to here, and there's actually some brain research that I'm going to share with you here in a second, and the listeners as well, is just this idea of we need our employees to have an overall better day-to-day experience as an employee at BCD. That's what the under 30s are saying, and I know that anybody that's over 30 is not going to disagree. If you could have a better employee experience day to day, you are going to be more plugged in, you're going to be more satisfied, which is going to satisfy our end user, and whether it's an internal or external customer, and it's then going to boost engagement for the overall company. Employee experience, and for our listeners there that are interested, you're welcome to go do your own reading on this. It really happens in three facets. It happens on the culture side. So what do our people actually do day to day? It happens on the technology side. What are you experiencing with the technologies that we have? And then it happens on the physical kind of workspace side. Are you set up for success, or are you working from your couch every day? We as an organization, as a company, we have so many different ways of working. We do have beautiful physical locations around the world. We do have, at least here in America, 75% of the workforce working virtual. I mean, my goodness, how do you provide a 75% workforce with a better day-to-day experience when truly you have no real leverage over their physical environment, over their emotional environment in the house, and what's going on for them? So it's a really challenging space that we're wading into, and 2020 is just going to bring it, to provide our people with the most positive employee experience possible. At least that's my mission. If our listeners could imagine just 3 ways you as an employee could experience life at BCD better, it would be through connecting with others better across your different running lanes or swimming lanes. It would be collaborating with people outside of your daily job function. And it would be celebrating our people like we do here on our podcast. In fact, here on this podcast, we do all 3. We connect people, we help people collaborate. You and I are doing that right now. And we help people celebrate people at BCD. I mean, this is an experience which is part of the overall employee experience, which I believe, Jen, do you want to announce what we're calling this great employee experience at BCD from the marketing lens?
Very, very excited to talk about the launch of Life at BCD, which is a new way to look at the employee experience. The concept of connecting, collaborating, celebrating, all of those 3 are going to come under the banner of Life at BCD. You're going to see it from the HR standpoint. You're going to see it from the global marketing standpoint. It is going to be awesome.
It is, and it's very, very exciting. So again, employee experience is what you as a listener are going to experience every single day through a number of different opportunities. We're hoping to overwhelm you with the great and cool and fun and exciting opportunities that you could have. And then Jen and team are then going to produce that and represent that out through all of our collateral as, and that's pretty savvy too, Jen, Life at, and it's not AT, it's the symbol at, right, that we put in emails. Life at BCD. So I guess the big announcement, while we've got your listeners and you haven't hung up on us now, you think that that's it, is firstly, this podcast is going to change. We're going to move it from the title A World of BCD and align it underneath an experience or an opportunity at BCD, and we're going to call it A Life at BCD podcast, which is step 1. Jen, I know that you've got a ton of different shifts and pivots that you're doing as a team as well. Do you want to share?
Well, first and foremost, we're going to be retiring Focus magazine at the end of December. We're going to print our last ever edition of the print publication. We're doing that. Hold on.
That's the physical magazine, right?
That is the physical magazine, yes. It is being retired, and it's being retired for a handful of reasons. First and foremost, it doesn't align with our digital transformation strategy. It's a print publication. Number 2, it's a print publication. It's not really in line with it's not in line with our strategy for sustainability. We get more and more requests every time we print of people saying, look, don't bother mailing it. I'll just read it online, because we've made it available through PDF for people to be able to access. So we're going to shift out of a physical print publication, which goes 3 times a year, and the news, it's a 4-month cycle in between it. We're going to bring that information under Life at BCD, again, life with the @ at BCD, through MySource, our global intranet. So now
has that launched yet? Has that
it
launched yet?
is, we are very, very close. Depending on when people are actually listening to this, November 13th is our pilot launch, with the majority of our owned markets being on by the early part of summer in 2020. So it's going to be a game changer. What it's going to do is it's going to give us immediacy. My team is going to produce content about employees, about our strategy. It's going to be people focused. It's going to have, getting to know other people. It's going to celebrate things. It's going to connect people. You're going to get to see your peers. You're going to meet people from the Singapore office. You're going to see people from the Japan office. You're going to see people from the Netherlands office. You're going to see all of that information actually come through in Life at BCD, and you can comment, you can like. So it's no more this one-way communication where we're putting information out. You can comment, you can like. We're actually going to be asking people for ideas. Again, everything is designed to be interactive. It's going to truly connect, collaborate, and celebrate.
And I love that. And it's still in the family of sources as well, which makes such a great connection throughout the brand, externally and internally. Good form, Jen.
Yeah, no, we're super excited. And again, MySource is going to be a game changer, not only because we're going to bring so much more information to people in a global place, but MySource is going to be searchable. You're going to be able to search Salesforce and Wikipedia from the digital front door that is MySource. So, I mean, it's a game changer on so many levels.
And the experience then bleeds back on this side too, the ones that the HR and the talent teams and the learning teams will be providing, from whether you're a new hire and you suddenly turn up and receive this virtual packet that helps connect you across the different swimming lanes, across different running lanes, through video now. Not necessarily here is the org structure, but a live person in APAC talking about how APAC runs at the moment for them and what their function does. I mean, there's so many different ways and different hopes that we have on the frontier of 2020 that's going to continue to develop this employee experience. We're trying to make sure that our learning teams now move away from this idea of limiting learning, to a classroom of 10 or to a workshop of 50. And what if we could make it, on demand, with purpose and informal, for all of our people at the same time, to build their most confident self whenever they want.
Well, and that's what's so exciting about this is, I mean, we're coming off of Confident Self Week, which was in September of this year, where we celebrated everyone's individual path. We're saying it's a journey, and I think that what we're talking about here with the employee experience is improving that journey. It's helping people connect more dots. That we always talk about in strategic comms. We connect dots for people. MySource, the learning and development, all of these pieces are designed to help people feel connected, to be a part of something. Because I know I'm proud of working at BCD, and I'm perfectly happy to tell people why I'm proud of it. Let's let everybody have that platform to be able to talk about their experience. Let's get that feedback. It's an exciting shift.
Yeah, and I think that, for all of our academics out there that are listening, there's some actual neuroscience that goes, and there's some why behind a lot of what we're trying to shift towards here. So, Jen, if you can stick with me for about 2 minutes, I got a little rant here of a little example that can speak to exactly what you were just sharing, which is this wanted to belong to something bigger, this wanted to belong more with the people that they're currently with. So go ahead and choose your right or left hand and make a fist, okay? And in your mind right now, say the word reptilian. Think of your fist as a reptilian brain, right? Your fist is the reptilian brain. So this is a binary brain. This brain says to you, am I dead or am I not? Am I breathing or am I not? That's basically what this is. Now, if you take your other hand, the hand that you haven't got a fist, and you put it over your reptilian brain, what this claw is over your fist is a mammalian part of your brain. So this is the second layer of your brain, called the mammalian brain. And this is where the emotional really kicks in. This is the fight, flight, or freeze part of your brain. And this is very important too at the workplace, because you've got your reptilian in a fist, you've got your claw that comes over that's mammalian, and these two things are like your superhighway. Okay. Now, if I was to take a sock and put it over both your fist and your claw right now, that's what you call your cortex part of your brain, the third and final part that I want to layer in as the neuroscience behind the why we're shifting towards emotional employee experience. Because life is emotional. The cortex is your thinking brain, your logical brain, and this is not a superhighway. This is actually a one-way street. So if you can imagine the first two layers, the reptilian and mammalian, they are actually like a 6-lane highway pouring emotion towards the cortex. But the cortex can only send a walking trail back towards them in terms of information. So we as humans, we in HR over the decades, we at work have often been told you have to leave your emotions at home. When actually what brain research is now showing us is that we are always emotional. The are you dead or not, the reptilian, and the mammalian supersedes sometimes the cortex, and therefore the 6 lanes trump the one coming back. Does this make sense?
Absolutely.
Emotionally, therefore, Jen and listeners, we are always trying to crave to find safety, to find belonging, and to find that what we do matters at work. And so therefore enter the emotional experience in the employee experience. We as individuals wearing that employee hat, as humans, amongst other humans wearing the human hat, are just constantly looking for safety, support, or belonging, and mattering, as in what do we do, does it matter at work? So as an employer now, brain research aside, it's our job to provide you with opportunities to feel more safe, to feel like what you're doing is belonging and mattering at work, in the workplace all the time, based on your brain. So who would have thought, Jen, that life at BCD is actually brain research back, and therefore in our efforts as an HR, as a marketing team, we're moving into this experience with neuroscientists backing what we're doing. Pretty cool, huh?
It absolutely is. Plus, then people can provide real-time feedback by completing their Pecan surveys each week.
Thank you for pumping that up, because that's actually the way that we're going to see the boost in this, because your experience day to day is increasing your satisfaction and therefore your engagement. So Jen, announcements out. The why is out. The what is out. What are some other cool things that you've heard me speak about that I haven't shared yet? Or what are some cool things that we have planned for 2020?
Well, Chicka, there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing with Life at BCD in 2020 that people should get excited about. There's going to be an increase in videos. There's going to be an increase in two-way communication. I mean, we've got some really fun things planned. And part of that's also going to tie into that launch of MySource, where people can kind of get involved and have their voice heard. So I think it's going to be a very exciting 2020 for us. And there's going to be a lot of different channels. I mean, I don't want to ruin all the surprises just yet, but people should get excited. People should definitely get excited.
It's time to sit up and pay attention. In fact, right now, if you've not sat up and realized on Instagram things have been changing over the last 3 to 4 months, it's because of this why. It's the Life at BCD. Let's start to brand ourselves a little bit better. Another big piece of feedback from the under 30s was, hey guys, you guys used to be active. You're not active on Instagram like right now. Let's go. And so we've worked with marketing now. We're starting to rumble again. I know that right now we're piloting a couple of interesting employee experiences down in Latin America that include virtual coffee and connecting our workforce randomly, kind of like a matchmaker, or going back to Michael Antrus's episode 1 of A World of BCD, the Tinder thinking of, could we matchmake people across the different swimming lanes to help their Tough Mudder race be better? We've got this podcast, and we're now even looking at a virtual collaboration type feel too, where we're just providing more and more opportunities to not feel like you're alone, but feel like you belong to the company. It's just a really exciting time to be at BCD, and I'm stoked. And final shout out to our listeners as we close down this kind of exciting opportunity, and the hope is that we can continue to highlight this over 2020, is if this is something that kind of fires you up and you say, hey, opportunities or getting involved or culture and being part of culture. In fact, we're going to be assembling across the regions. Boy, Jen, I'm going to probably get in trouble for saying this. We're looking to start to put together what we're going to label culture squads around BCD, where they can help you and me and our teams deploy some of these great projects, great programs that we're going to be pushing out to boost the employee experience. So if the culture squad is something you want to get involved with, then please let me know, and I'll be willing to bring you into our plans for 2020. And Jen, I know that you and I also spoke about, you and I don't know everything to do here. I mean, this is our people. So if you're one of our people as a listener, and this podcast excites you, firstly, send it to all your people, because we want your ideas on how we can improve employee experience at BCD Travel. So I guess, Jenn, if you've worked at another company that's done something really cool, or you've always said, I wonder if we could always do this, this would actually boost my 5 stars, then send us the ideas, right, Jenn?
Well, life at BCD is all about connect, collaborate, and celebrate. And I will very much make the emphasis that the employee experience begins with you, listener. You play a role in making MySource work. We need your input. You get out what you put in. So, welcome to life at BCD, and let's get going.
Let's go, you and I and our listeners, let's go feed our future. We're charging into this 2020, and we're trying to evolve through employee experience for our people, with our people, by our people. So Jenn, thanks for stepping up and moving with me, and let's go. 2020, here we come.
Game on.
Lots of great information in that episode, listeners. And again, shout out to all of you for sharing this. Our dare to you is to take this to your manager, share it with them, share it with your leaders, share it with your entire organization, because employee experience is coming, and we're going to need you to help feed us so that we can feed you back in 2020. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week on A Life at BCD. Whoop, whoop.